We're out here on the west end of Edible Acres. This is our larger 6-acre homestead site, and on this west end this is a relatively new clearing. It's about 3 years old, and we're in the process of trying to establish permanent raised beds that are fertile and relatively weed-free, or relatively simple and ready for us to grow what we need. And so we're doing this experiment. It's kind of a hybrid between a few different concepts. Number one is the question of how do we take advantage, extract some value from all of the excess compost being generated by our chickens. I talk about that in another video. I'll link to that here. And so what we've done is we took all of these containers that I invested in a ways back. We've got a nice stack of, and they've got holes in the bottom. And so basically we're filling them with compost from the chicken yard, and then using these hoops. I talk about this in another video as well, which are these mobile high tunnel structures. These are made out of bent 1/2-inch EMT conduit pipe. They cost about $10 a piece for me to build, and they'll be reusable over and over again. And we have $3 worth of hay. I bought 100 bales recently, and so what we did is took all of the comfrey and poison ivy and other herbs that were growing, herbaceous plants that were growing in here, and laid them down and covered them in hay. In this one particular area, I think we're going to transition away from comfrey if we can. It's been an interesting question to see if we can answer that. And we put these hoop frames in part so that it was easy to add fencing to it. The fencing, I've just got piles of offcuts of fencing that I bartered for, bought at yard sales. Probably about $5 worth of fencing here. And Sasha just went through and used the binds from the hay bales to tie it off. This isn't going to be a permanent structure. Basically, if this works until the fall, we can take it all apart. Because the idea is basically, for this season, these containers have been seeded out to incredibly fast-growing, powerful plants. There's butternut squash seeded all along the edge, with the idea that they can grow and sprawl out and spread into this mowed area. I've found that winter squash, for the most part, never gets messed with by deer, and we've got heavy deer pressure out here. In the center of all of these is Mohawk red corn, which is a type of flint corn. I just marked with a nursery pen the different varieties. So there's corn in the middle of these beds. There's a giant amaranth growing, that will be growing through the other sides. And then on the north end, Sasha went through and seeded out a bunch of cucumbers that can use this fencing as a trellis. So we're in about $20 with the potential to reclaim 2 4-foot by 8-foot bed spaces as permanent raised beds. In the fall, we would harvest all of the winter squash, the amaranth, the corn, the cucumbers, and then simply dump these containers out. Hopefully they keep the weeds down enough. We can keep adding hay to suppress weeds. Dump the containers and then bring them back to our home, refill them with chicken compost, and employ this in different areas. So basically imprinting permanent raised beds through this lush fertility. We're going to document it throughout the summer, see how it grows. Real quick side note, I didn't come out here with tin snips or pliers, so a neat trick for making really simple fencing without a lot of fuss is to just have it overlap. So this isn't a garden space that I'd want to come into every day of the week, but when we need to come in and water here or there, and we have a hand-dug pond that's not far, it's about 20 feet away, so I can dip in for water there. But basically we just tied the fencing off in a way where it's easy enough to walk through. If I'm carrying a heavy load, I can really open it and be able to come through here. So this bed will continue to add hay and crates and then seed those out. And then when it's all said and done, we'll wrap this around, and the gate is very thoroughly closed. We put beets and parsley in one of these beds almost as a lure. There's lots of rabbits out here, and I'm interested to see if rabbits can get in here. I don't think they can. So a deer-proof, rabbit-proof, hopefully, space to grow a ton of annuals in exchange for converting over to weed-free permanent raised beds in a pretty challenging spot. Let's see how it works. We'll share notes as we go. Okay.